Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I have another interview for you today. I got to sit down with the creators of Death Drop Gorgeous, which is a new horror movie set in the world of drag queens in Providence. It sounds very, very niche, which in a lot of ways it is, of course. But watching it, it does have this really cool universal appeal, and we get into that a little bit in the interview, so I don't want to give too much of it away right here. But it was just cool how they managed to tell such a specific niche story to a wide audience where everyone can kind of relate to it in one way or another. And then running alongside of that, you have kind of a slasher movie with some really really good gore images if that's what you're into your horror movies for. I'm trying to be vague and not give a very specific scene away that I know is going to be in the back of my mind for a while. So enjoy the interview, check out the movie. It comes out this Friday, September 10th. Limited theatrical run, so if you're near theaters that are opening up again, get out there, enjoy it, support your theater, spend $50,000 on a popcorn for concessions to keep them open, or check it out on VOD, all the major platforms. Enjoy. Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with the DDG crew. How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for coming on. So I'll try to keep it organized with three people so everyone can talk. So why don't you introduce yourselves first and say what you did for Death Drop Gorgeous?
Yeah, sure. My name is Mike Ahern. I'm the co-writer, co-director, and I also played Detective O'Hara in the film.
I'm Brandon Perras Sanchez. I'm one of the co-creators and played Tony Two Fingers in the film.
I'm Ryan Miller, and although I was there during the a lot of the writing, I wasn't as participatory in that. But I did the production sound, was there to help out on set, and I played the pup in the movie.
All right. For people who haven't seen the movie, watch it and you'll understand what he's saying. So have you guys been working together for a long time, or is this again your first collaboration?
Death Drop Gorgeous was our first collaboration. So it started about like 6 years ago almost. Wow. At this point. And yeah, Brandon and I knew each other like we had like a friendly like correspondence. We weren't necessarily like really close friends. And then Brandon and Chris knew each other. And so yeah, it was our first film together.
Very cool. So you just got we're running in the same circles because you were all kind of into the same industry.
Yeah.
To some degree. I think Brandon and I connected over horror, and that's how we built that was like the core building block of our friendship, and then it just kind of went from there.
And I'm Brandon's boyfriend, so that's how I got roped into everything as well.
Okay. Just got dragged along kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And are you guys from Providence? Because it's very much a Providence movie.
It is a very Providence movie. We're all actually technically transplants. I'm from Massachusetts, so not far, but
I'm from Vermont, but I lived down here for close to 20 years.
Yeah, I'm from Oklahoma, but I haven't lived there since I was 18. I've been here for probably 10 years.
Okay. So because I kind of took a lot of the movie as almost like a love letter to the city also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We think we really wanted to showcase a lot of what Providence has to offer in the film.
The good and the bad.
The good and the bad.
Yeah, it's weird because I was trying to find the right term in love letter to the city, because it did seem like it came from a place of endearment, even though it doesn't necessarily show the best parts of Providence all the time.
Right, yeah, you take the good with the bad.
Yeah, there you go.
It's where Providence had a lot of like kind of happy accidents. Like a lot of the corruption actually kind of shaped the art community here in an inadvertent way. So like a lot of what the mafia had done in the city actually did a lot of good for the LGBTQ and the art community. It's starting to backfire now, but for a good like 25-ish years, their corruption did some good.
As chaotic as it was, there was a thriving scene here for music, like drag, everything.
Some good and some bad. Yeah.
Is that the same kind of deal where like you go to some of these countries where you go on vacation, but the country itself is a mess, but the vacation part is like really well taken care of because they want that money coming in?
Yeah, that's actually a good analogy, I think.
Makes you have those resorts called Sandals, but Providence would like definitely be flip-flops.
There you go. That's perfect. Yeah, I've been to Cape Cod, but never went into Providence. It was just like a day trip. So I'm in upstate New York, so I'm pretty close to you guys.
Oh, we're in upstate New York.
Near Albany.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Like between Albany and Saratoga Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saratoga's the more art place.
Got some good music going on up there.
Oh yeah, SPAC's always got crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
All right, so how did the idea for this movie come about? I mean, there's probably like the subculture aspects of it, but then you throw in a serial killer who's really sadistic.
Well, it kind of started off, me and the other creator, Chris, we were joking around like a year before we made the movie about how these sex apps are made for serial killers. Just how like gay men will meet another gay guy anywhere just for sex. And it's like, I think everyone's red flags are turned off in those situations. And so then, a year later, I was talking to Mike about it, and I was like, hey, Chris and I were talking about this movie idea. He's like, yeah, let's make it into a movie. So then I went back to Chris and was like, hey, Mike was thinking about making this a movie. You should meet him. So we, brought that idea to the table, and then kind of like stuck all this other stuff onto it too to make it into a more wild and crazy plot.
Because it almost felt like, sorry, so was someone going to talk?
Oh no, I was going to say also some of the storylines. So like Gloria Hole, her character is loosely based on an older drag queen that has been in Providence or was in Providence for a very long time now in North Carolina. Kitty Litter, who actually comes up as the dead drag mother of Gloria Hole in the movie. You see her little picture in there.
Yeah.
But some of her mannerisms, her personality, her sort of like lovable monstrousness, I guess, were inspired and embodied in the role of Gloria Hole. So
very cool. An amazing name, by the way. Yeah, because it really felt like it was almost two movies. Like you're watching the movie about I don't remember the name of the bar, sorry, but the bar and the subculture and that whole nightlife going on. But then you also have the horror movie kind of like running simultaneous to it. So was that the plan from the beginning to kind of keep them parallel tracks? I mean, obviously you needed the environment for the killer, but it didn't really come together or didn't feel like a full-on horror movie until later on.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to paint a portrait of like I think the nightlife in Providence is so vibrant and crazy, especially like the way the drag queens just, talk about it, or the LGBTQ talks about it and explains it. It's just, the big lights, it's all colorful. We wanted the daytime just be kind of like doldrum and drab. Like, once the night's over, you go back to your 40-hour-a-week job and things are boring and sad. And then and we want to kind of tie the horror in there too, kind of like weaving in and out of both of those scenarios. And, kind of having like the daytime and how boring it is kind of drive some of these queens to do drastic things.
And I think just like naturally when you have like three folks working on a script, you're just all pulling in your own inspirations. And I think while it was deliberate that we have these two sort of stories like running simultaneously, I think just having like three minds kind of like carving this story out definitely affected sort of the multiple arcs that are happening.
That makes sense. You kind of get everyone's voice in there and then have it blend in together.
For sure, yeah, like a drag queen makeup thing.
Yeah. It's just an interesting subculture that I have no exposure to. So I'm trying to ask questions, but I want to ask the right questions, if you know what I mean. Like I don't want to.
Oh yeah,
we don't want to like step on anybody's toes or do anything like that.
No, I feel bad exposing you to
it. Well, I'm guessing it's not exactly like it was in your movie.
No, you're wrong. It's exactly how we depicted it.
Okay. I don't know if I'm going to sleep for a while if that meat grinder scene.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we've gotten like a lot of like straight people have watched it and have liked it or not liked it. We didn't make it just for gay people. I think like one of our big audiences we're targeted is just anyone feeling like an outsider in their own community. Like we obviously are gay and like wanted to tell it from our perspective and like our life experiences. So it was just kind of, I think anyone could take something away from the film. I mean, it's just, I've been from the music community and metal community too. And, sometimes you feel like an outsider in that community too. So I think, anytime you feel like that, this movie's kind of for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It didn't feel like, oh, this isn't for me. Why am I watching this? It's not a subculture I'm familiar with, but that's the benefit of a movie. You expose yourself to new things and you get a story to go along with it. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And what you said about outsiders is that's 100% on, because it's, even people who are like huge geeks for horror movies, that's a subculture, and a lot of those people maybe don't fit in their high school or whatever it might be, later on in life too. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a universal story in there for sure.
Yeah, and I think also like, a lot of movies contrast gay people with straight people and show gay people as outsiders with respect to like the rest of the straight world, whereas a lot of our experience comes from like actually people feeling like outsiders within the gay world who are themselves gay. And so a lot of those sort of like nuanced relationships within the gay community don't always like end up on the screen. So that was something that we wanted to reflect as well. So
Yeah, that's interesting too, because it is like as I'm watching the movie, it's not here's the 9 straight people, then you get the one like token gay character that they're putting in all the movies now, and it's like, oh, okay, there's the guy who's gonna act in this way, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of gay movies, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in a lot of gay movies, the villain is the straight person, and that can be totally valid, obviously. But a lot of our villains in ours are gay, so I don't know. Yeah, you take the good with the bad, right? Like that's what we said earlier.
We wanted to get representation in a sense that like actually it's funny that we're talking about this. The last movies we saw had like a token gay character. They're always sassy, they're always quirky, they're always like kind of the nice one. But like that's not really all like the full representation. If that's gonna be the token gay in every movie, that's totally inaccurate. Being gay is just a sexual orientation. We're capable of being assholes and bullies just like anyone else. So
right. Absolutely. I've been on a big horror kick lately, and it's that they very much go for tropes in horror movies. So.
Yeah, and then they get celebrated for it, and it's a little like, guys, this is like bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, it's 100% for representation, but let's do it right and not be pandering.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Or try to be pandering and get it wrong. Sorry, I'm a little blank. I'm just trying to ask questions to all 3 of you so everyone gets a chance to talk.
Oh, you're fine.
You're doing fine.
Yeah,
you don't have to single us out. If it's easy, just throw stuff out there. We'll grab it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. So the movie, I think I'd read somewhere that it was shot over like a year and a half.
Yeah, so it was filmed on nights and weekends. We all have like daytime jobs, and we had to like every actor in the film was like donating their time for free. They're all like local queens or local actors, or some people without any acting experience. So it was a lot of coordinating schedules and a lot of like long nights and weeknights and weekends. So that's why it took so long. Also, we had to fundraise a lot of our budget, so our budget was entirely fundraised, and so it was sort of like piecemealing together what we could accomplish. So that's why it took so long.
We
Makes a lot of sense.
We did a lot of the post stuff too. So like while we were filming, I was editing, and then kind of Ryan took the helm with editing majority of it, working on sound design, doing some foleying. We had a lot of help from Roman, who did the Scream Queen documentary about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, who's amazing, but he kind of stepped in and helped us with the sound stuff too. So a lot of the time was post stuff. Post just takes forever to do anything. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we even once we had a rough edit, there were we went through iterations of the film that were shorter and shorter, because I think we started out with like 2.5 hours, and then had to like cut it back, and that was like a tough, arduous process. So it took several months for that to happen.
Did you fall into the kill your darlings thing where you had scenes that you really loved, and you're like, do we cut this? This is really good for this one element, but does it carry the story?
Probably on a weekly basis.
Did you ever have like kind of conflict with the 3 of you being involved, where one of you might have been like, oh, I love that scene, we need it, and someone else is, you just like that because you wrote it, it doesn't do anything for the story? Was there any kind of like back and forth where you were maybe trying to hang on to something you created a little bit more?
Not so much. I feel like we kind of got the gist of like why we had to edit some things down. There were a few scenes like that all of us would not budge on. Like we agreed together that not to cut it out. We had some producer friends and other film people look at it, and there was something we disagreed with those people on a couple of scenes. Like, no, this has got to stay. But as far as like the 3 of us doing, I don't think there's really any conflict.
I think it was a lot of like we had a very similar vision, and we all knew what scenes that we loved, that we thought were important. So I think most of the time we were on the same page in that regard. Like Brandon said, it would be someone being like, you need to cut down this drag queen performance, and we'd be like, no. So
instead, I think we chose to go through the movie, and as much as we could, like eke out like 1 second, 2 seconds, like here and there, which a lot of that depends on like what takes or what cuts you have, and like whether it works like continuity wise. But we basically just went through the whole thing and like shaved off little bit by little bit to see where that would get us,
Yeah.
and then made tough decisions if we had to after that. So
Yeah, it's an interesting process, and it's just fascinating that you have three different creative minds working on one thing, and you all kind of fell onto the same page. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing was is we all kind of knew like what our strengths were. We were able to kind of like take a step back if we needed to, like especially like Mike created the majority of dialogue, and Chris and I like helped with like developing characters and some of the story. And then like I storyboarded a good chunk of it out, and then kind of shared that with these guys. And I think everyone just kind of like played to their strengths, which was super helpful too. So yeah, that worked out pretty well. We kind of already knew like what most of our sets were too. So when we were kind of like framing it out, we kind of spatially had an idea what things were going to look like. It was kind of surprising like how accurate things looked from like the storyboard versus what we did in person too. So that kind of worked out well.
So you had mentioned that you used mostly non-actors, just people from your community, people you knew, or did you do any kind of like open casting or approach anybody and say, we're doing this thing, do you want to be part of it?
Yeah, we did. So we did both. Gloria Hole, like we said earlier, is based on a drag queen from here named Kitty Litter. And we wanted her to play the role, but she's like kind of unreliable, as you would expect a real life Gloria Hole to be.
Completely psychotic.
And it's completely psychotic. So we asked her best friend to play Gloria Hole, Peyton St. James, who is a drag queen locally. And so we did that. We approached her and she was down. Like she read like 10 or 15 pages and was like, I'm in, which was really exciting. We had a few friends that we had in mind for some roles, but we did do like an open casting here in Providence, and some drag queens showed up, some people we had never met showed up, and yeah, that's how we like got our cast together.
That's cool. I like how that comes together with these indie movies where people just want to be part of something and help create something. So everyone kind of pitches in and maybe goes even more above and beyond than if it was like a typical, even a smaller production where I'm an actor, I need to get paid, and this is going to happen. Like you're kind of all in it together, making it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of our biggest takeaways we want everyone to know too is like we just want to encourage people to make their own movies, and that there are like you said, there's whole communities of people that want to step up and help. There's businesses that stepped in, even like people that want to cater food for us, like local businesses that were so psyched we're making this film, like gave us free pizzas, feed the cast. Different bars and clubs like allowed us to do this, these crazy scenes in there, and they were super excited about it too. A lot of local friends. We did like open cast. Like we need people to show up at a bar for the scene. People came. So I think people should never be afraid to reach out because people love this shit. They want to be a part of it. They want to step in. So I don't know. It's just we want people to make their own movies and do the thing.
Yeah, and asking doesn't cost anything. The worst they can do is say no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You did have a lot of big locations and big crowd scenes, like really ambitious for a movie that just kind of like, oh, we got a few bucks, let's get this scene done.
Yeah. No, we did. And I think when we were writing it, like the idea to make it was definitely in our minds, but we were just kind of writing it and not limiting ourselves to like, well, how are we going to execute that? We were just writing because we were enjoying it. When it came to the time to do things, there was obviously some things we had to scale back on or like edit or like kind of retweak. But for the most part, we like committed to what we wrote and we executed it. And that just goes back to also like those club scenes and stuff. All the sets you see like in the movie are all local businesses, if not sets we built ourselves, like in our basement of our house. Otherwise, it's like we approached a bar and they let us in. We approached a restaurant, they gave us food. So I think it just that just speaks to Providence and like how much like close like knit everything is here. Like people are down to help, and I don't think you could have accomplished this in like a larger city, like say New York City or something like that.
Well, I think with something like New York City, I mean, I'm sure there's tons of subcultures, but I feel like everything gets washed out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not part of it, it doesn't exist because you're just doing your own thing.
For sure.
So doing it in like the small, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, so doing it in the smaller town makes a lot of sense where you would get that enthusiasm.
Yeah. It's easy. The resources are easy to get to.
What were you going to say?
Oh no, I just feel it's like it's more competitive in larger cities too, where I feel like in Providence it's not very competitive with the stuff here. I think that it's a pretty tight knit community, like even within the music scene and the drag scene too. It was just so easy and comfortable to reach out to like bands and people, even like for the score and the soundtrack. Like We got a whole array of musicians on there that was super fun. So I mean, everyone was just really psyched to do something.
Yeah, the totally original score was really cool. I thought that was a really nice touch to make it feel a lot larger. Not that it felt small. I mean, like I said, you had tons of crowd scenes and club scenes, and you were going all over the place. But the original score thing I thought was cool.
Yeah, the soundtrack is really special. Devin Hunt and Kyle Paradis did some of it, and then our friend Kevin, who goes by the name Limousine, did like the other half of it. And then all the rest of the songs you hear are mostly local musicians that were just, like we said, like were either like down to write a song or like let us use a song, which was really special. It's sort of, I don't know, like it's so what I love about the soundtrack is it's just so multifaceted. Like you have dance pop, but then you have noise rock, and then you have like, I don't know, it's just like a nice eclectic mix, I think, which makes it special.
I don't know if it was just the rabbit hole I've been going down on older horror movies, but it kind of gave me an 80s vibe too. Was that intentional?
Oh yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Having that band in the towards the end with the Anxious Wave and In Heat playing, I love those old 80 movies that have like a random band sequence too. So we kind of agreed to like have that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a fun time.
Nice. All right, cool. I also liked what you were saying about writing the script, because that was going to be one of my questions, is when you were writing it, did you write like, oh, let's do a scene like, oh, there's no way we're going to be able to pull that off and scrub it. But I like that you didn't limit yourself. I mean, you had to figure out problems on the fly, I'm sure, but.
Right. Yeah. I think had we limited ourselves at the time, it wouldn't have been what it ended up being. Like it ended up being something really magical. And I think if we were like, well, how are we going to do that? It would have like changed the story and probably made it not as fun. So
yeah. You'd end up with a lot of scenes of two characters in a car talking.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And when we hit those walls, like we really did brainstorm, like how can we do this scene? And if it was too crazy, we'd just cut it. But like we really did give it an all. So we got a little grandiose towards the end and had to scale that back. It was like almost like the ending of Die Hard ish. It's not that crazy, but yeah, there were some scenes that like how the hell are we going to do this? We had to kind of change gears and work within our means.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure any production goes through that. So
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the larger than life. It's kind of the like if you knew how crazy it was going to be going back, you might not do it again the same way. But since you didn't, you got to go for it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I think if like we always say, if we had known that it was going to take like 5 or 6 years of our life to like finish this project at the very beginning, I'd like to think we would still do it.
Yeah.
But we might have to think about it for a second.
Yeah.
That is a tougher sell on the pitch. It's like, hey, I want to make this movie. Are you on board for the next 5 or 6 years?
Yeah. What are you doing when you're 40?
Yeah.
I hate to say the word, but did the COVID of everything slow you guys down?
We luckily missed it.
Yeah.
So that was, well, I mean, COVID did kind of screw us with the festival stuff. I guess there was that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's production wise, no. But when we were gearing up, when we started submitting to festivals and we were gearing up to premiere, COVID happened and all festivals went virtual. And there's like positives and negatives to it. The positive being, I think more eyes got to see our movie. Versus like if it's just playing in like these weird select theaters in like these random cities throughout the country. So people could like buy a ticket and watch from the comforts of their home. The negative thing being like we didn't actually get to like experience a like film festival as like a team. And I think we all agree that Death Drop is the kind of film that you're supposed to see like in a crowd, and you're all supposed to be screaming and laughing and like shielding your eyes from the gore, like together. It's supposed to be like a group experience. So we haven't really gotten that. We had a few drive-ins, which were really fun locally, but we didn't get to have that like sort of film festival theater experience. So
yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah.
The drive-ins were like a dream, though. I mean, our movie belongs in drive-ins. It really, like Mike was saying, in larger crowds. So the drive-ins were actually great. So that's one good thing that came out of it, because we have a couple local drive-ins. So all through COVID, they opened earlier in the year, and they started showing movies like kind of daily, so people can go in their cars and watch movies safely. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, on the Rhode Island International Film Fest, their sort of horror division that's called Vortex. That was one of the ones we were accepted to, and we found out that they were actually, because it was in the midst of COVID and they couldn't do all the in-person theater stuff, but they said we're actually going to do screenings of some of the films at the drive-in. And so people purchased tickets to that, and they selected ours as one of them. So we were super psyched to at least be able to do that.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And I saw that you guys had won an award at one of these festivals, right?
We've won a couple, yeah. So Vortex, which Ryan was just talking about, we won first prize
for horror feature.
For the horror feature, we won the audience award at Wicked Queer, which is an LGBTQ fest based in Boston. The audience award at Salem Horror Fest.
In Soho too.
And Soho, which is a really cool queer horror festival based in the UK. And we've won a few other awards.
I think they won Best Feature at Scuff, maybe too.
Oh yeah,
there were like a few other ones that we won awards.
Right.
So yeah, it's been super exciting.
And and it's like super exciting that it's like received by audience as well. Like winning those audience awards are really exciting because we wanted to make a crowd pleaser, I think. So
yeah, that's really cool that it's traveled so far.
Yeah.
And now you have distribution coming up.
Yeah. So we were picked up by Dark Star Pictures, which is super exciting. And like we wanted to get distribution. We didn't know if it was possible with a movie like our size because it's just so niche and also like so DIY. So we were really surprised and excited. And yeah, the movie will be available. I don't know when this will air, but it'll be available Friday, September 10th to rent or buy like on your iTunes and Amazon and stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm going to try to get this up today or tomorrow because your release date is right there. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's awesome. So it's going to be theaters and VOD. You said like all the major platforms.
Yeah, it'll be on major platforms, limited theaters, and yeah, so it should be easily accessible to most folks.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you were saying that you weren't sure because it's so niche, but I think people are looking for niche.
Yeah, no, that's true too.
That is true. Yeah.
I just feel like you can only go to Netflix and watch the same Mad Lib movie where you change out the lead actor, the lead actress, and 3 action scenes. It's the same thing.
Yeah, no, that's what's so disturbing about Netflix to me is how like so much of their content is like algorithm created.
Yeah,
it freaks me out. So no, you do have a good point. I guess it's just like we had like such a big dream for this film and like it's just like kind of surreal that we've been accomplishing those dreams. So that's what I meant. But yeah, I think people do like niche, people do like different and want something fresh and not necessarily written by a computer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Real people telling an original story. Imagine that.
Yeah, for sure.
Or another reimagining or remake or oh my god.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk in 5 years when you're on Death Drop Gorgeous in space or something.
Gloria goes to Mars.
Yeah, there you go. Some weird version of Elon Musk.
Right.
Weirder version of Elon Musk.
Yeah. Elon Musk in drag.
That'd be great. Yeah. Make that happen.
A horror movie within itself.
Awesome. Well, if you guys have anything else you want to plug, like if your movie has socials or a website, anything you want to point people to?
Yeah, we're pretty easy to find. It's like Death Drop Gorgeous across the board. We did start our own production company called Monster Makeup Productions, which is if people want to see what other projects we're working on. deathdropgorgeous.com. That's what we're at on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And we also just started our second film called Saint Drogo, which will be tonally very different than Death Drop, but also in the horror realm. So if you like horror, you can follow that film also on social media.
Very cool. And you 3 guys are staying as a team to work on that one too?
Yeah, it's going to be us. There'll be some familiar faces from Death Drop, not in drag this time, and a few new faces too. Yeah, it was our little COVID project. We actually all lived together. We're roommates. So in lockdown, we wrote the script, and then we were filming this past winter, and we're hoping to finish production this upcoming winter.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hang on to our email. We'll do this again whenever you're done.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on. That was really cool. It was a lot of fun, so people should definitely check it out on Friday.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thanks for having us.
So thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I'd like to thank the creators of Death Drop Gorgeous for coming on one more time to talk to me about their movie, a long-term passion project. Like they said, it took 5 or 6 years to make, which is awesome. It's huge, and I love these stories about indie movies where they didn't say this verbatim, I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but maybe if you knew all the insanity and how difficult it would be up front, you might have scared yourself away from doing it. But jumping in head first on these kind of things is the way to go. Don't put your house on the line, obviously, but it's the way to go. It's really cool when these things come together. And as we talked about a little bit in the interview, it's something different. It's not the same thing you've seen 1,000 times. I don't know about you guys. I've been having a hard time finding things that I'm really clicking with. So to see something fresh was refreshing. Make sure you like and subscribe. We have a lot more new movie coverage, a lot more interviews, reviews, recommendations. I still have unboxings to edit. I have all the Comic-Con footage I need to edit. I've just been so slammed I haven't got a chance to, but we got interviews coming from that, cosplay videos. You're not going to want to miss out. Like and subscribe. Also, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resources for reviews, recommendations, merchandise, videos, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop a note in the comments or leave us something on social media. All of our accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a really good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series. We have a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo going right now. The comic is called Social Studies. Our first chapter just wrapped up. It's a great place to jump on board because we are probably about 75% of the way through making Chapter 2, which is going to come your way soon. So check out socialstudiescomic.com for all the information on what's out there already, what's coming up, and the crowdfunding campaign. A little bit goes a long way, or just share it around, tell your friends, anything you can do, we really appreciate.